What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. Now today it is time for an absolutely massive video. It's one of the favorite series on my channel. It's the UEFA Champions League series. Now I have covered it from the beginning of the tournament, starting with day one of the group stage, and we are now here in the final. Remaining two teams, Tottenham and Liverpool, which is a crazy final. The fact that Tottenham have got to a final is mad. Liverpool maybe not as surprising, but given how tough they made it in the group stage, it's kind of also a bit of a surprise that Liverpool made it this far as well, obviously losing to Barcelona 3-0 in the first leg of the Nou Camp. It's a very interesting final, and today we're going to go through a little preview of the game, some previous results for Tottenham and Liverpool recently, head-to-heads, facts about the Champions League to do with this channel, other sort of stuff like that. So before you get any further in this video, I want you to leave a like on it down below, subscribe, turn on the bell so you don't miss another video, and let me know down in the comments how you think this final is going to pan out, any sort of storyline you think may occur. Or do you think it's going to go to extra time, penalties, all that stuff? Who do you think is going to win? Leave your score predictions down in the comments. We can have a little discussion about it. A lot of you did it in my Europa League final prediction video, which was awesome, and I do just want to quickly say that in that video I said that Kante looked like he was going to be fit, ready for the final as he was back in training, but since then he took a knock in training and now we don't know what's going to happen. But anyway, on to the Champions League. Before we get into the final, I just want to say up until this point my Champions League correct predictions, and just like the Europa League, I correctly predicted 6 scores of the Champions League, and that was Juventus to beat Young Boys 3-0, Bayern Munich to beat AEK Athens 2-0, Benfica and Ajax to draw 1-1, Borussia Dortmund to beat Monaco 2-0, Roma to beat Porto 2-1, and Liverpool to beat Porto 2-0. So those were my 6 correct score predictions so far for the Champions League, and let's try and make it a lucky number 7 with my prediction for the Champions League final. So the game is listed with Tottenham as the home team and Liverpool as the away team, despite it of course being played in Madrid. So we'll start off with Tottenham, and with the last 6 games for Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously the end of the season wasn't as great as the start and the middle of the season, but nevertheless, as far as Europe goes, they've been doing well to get to this far, and that is obviously something they clearly have achieved. So kicking it off, we have a 2-2 draw against Everton on the final day, the 3-2 win against Ajax, obviously thanks to Lucas Moura, a 1-0 loss against Bournemouth, where obviously they had 2 red cards in just a matter of a few minutes, which is absolutely insane, the 1-0 loss against Ajax, a 1-0 loss against West Ham, and a 1-0 win against Brighton. So as you can see, the goals were kept fairly low until obviously the Ajax and the Everton game, and it wasn't looking great for them. 3 1-0 losses on the bounce. I think not all of those were away. 2 of them were away. The West Ham one, they were at home. Now, if we move on to Liverpool, we have a much different story. A 2-0 win against Wolves on the final day, the 4-0 monumental win against Barcelona, the 3-2 win against Newcastle, which I believe they were fairly fortunate, to be honest, but they got the job done. The 3-0 loss against Barcelona, where they were unlucky to be beaten so strongly, and I think justice was served when they did go through the tie, because they played extremely well in the second leg, and they played better in the first leg than Barcelona played in the second leg, if that makes any sense. I don't think 3 goals really did it justice. Maybe a 2-1, a 3-1 even to Barcelona would have been a fairer reflection as to how the game went, even a draw, because Liverpool were very good. They just couldn't finish their chances, and Barcelona were very clinical. Lionel Messi had that moment of magic with the free kick, of course. Then they had the 5-0 win against Huddersfield and the 2-0 win against Cardiff, which we don't really need to talk about. Now, as far as the group stage goes, Tottenham finished second in Group B behind Barcelona on 8 points. And as I've said before in this series, they were the only team to make it out of the group stage, I think in both European competitions, with a negative goal difference. They literally conceded more than they scored in the group stage, and they still went through, winning 2, drawing 2, and losing 2. It was a very mixed group of results in their 6 group games. They had the same points and goal difference as third place Inter Milan, and their head-to-head finished 2-2. So they went through on the away goals rule in the head-to-head in the group stage. That's how close it was, because Tottenham beat Inter Milan 1-0 at home, and Inter Milan beat Tottenham 2-1 at Inter Milan's ground, making it 2-2 on aggregate, with Tottenham having 1 away goal and Inter Milan having 0. So that's how close it was. They both finished on -1 goal difference with 8 points, and it literally was 1 away goal for Tottenham, which definitely the away goals rule for Tottenham has been a huge friend to them in this competition, as you'll see as we go further on, because, well, they beat Borussia Dortmund fairly convincingly, 4-0 on aggregate in the round of 16, and that's kind of where their domination really ended. The group stage was shaky, they had a great tie against Dortmund, and then it got shaky again. They beat Man City on away goals, 4-4 on aggregate in the quarterfinals. They were fortunate. Let's be real, they were fortunate. Aguero missed the penalty. You could argue Lloris saved the penalty, whichever way you want to look at it, and Sterling's goal was offside due to Aguero's flick on, him being marginally offside. You could argue that Llorente's was a handball because his arm did influence the play, it influenced the travel of the ball. You could argue it was a handball, so they were fortunate to go through. Man City are a great team, but they did the job, so we can get past that. And they beat Ajax on away goals with a 3-3 aggregate in the semis, where they were also fortunate. I think arguably, compared to Man City, I'd say really you'd think Man City deserved to go through. I would say it's not often you say the team that didn't go through deserved to go through, but I think against Ajax, Tottenham did deserve to go through because Ajax's lack of experience kind of shone through there. They weren't able to hold Tottenham back, conceding 3 goals in the second half of essentially a 4-half tie is not good enough, and I think Ajax were found out a bit in the second half of the first leg. Tottenham looked a bit better against Ajax, and Ajax needed to defend better. So I think you could argue Tottenham deserved to go through against Ajax despite them putting up a fantastic fight. Now, if we move on to Liverpool, it wasn't much more convincing in the group stage. They finished second in Group C on 9 points. It was the same as the Tottenham and Inter Milan situation, but even more so. They have the same points, goal difference, and the same head-to-head record with Napoli. It was about as close as it can get in the group stage because Napoli and Liverpool both finished on 9 points. I think they both had a +2 goal difference, and they both had a 1-1 aggregate head-to-head with 1 home goal each. So even the away rule couldn't come into play here. So I could be wrong, but I believe this meant that Liverpool qualified on the basis that they scored more goals in the group stage than Napoli. I think Liverpool scored 9 and conceded 7, and Napoli scored 7 and conceded 5. And I think goal scoring, I guess, as a tiebreaker is more important than conceding goals. So Liverpool, having scored 2 more than Napoli, despite having the same points, goal difference, and head-to-head, went through. Like I said, that's about as close as it can get. So it was so close for Liverpool and Tottenham. Both could have easily, 1 goal either way could have sent Tottenham out in the group stage and Liverpool out in the group stage. We'd have an entirely different, matchup. I think Napoli wouldn't have got to the finals, whether they got past Bayern Munich, which I don't think they would have done, or whether they would have got past Porto, which they possibly could have done. They wouldn't have got past Barcelona, and Inter Milan I don't think would have got past maybe Borussia Dortmund, but definitely not Man City. So I think we could be seeing maybe a Bayern Munich City final or a Barcelona Man City final had the group stage been altered by 1 goal. But here we are, Tottenham versus Liverpool. Now, Liverpool went on to beat Bayern Munich 3-1 on aggregate in the round of 16 with 3 away goals because the leg at Anfield ended 0-0. So a fantastic performance there, really. They crushed Porto 6-1 on aggregate in the quarterfinals, and they beat Barcelona, obviously 4-3 on aggregate in the semifinals with a fantastic comeback in the second leg at Anfield. And like I said, deservedly going through to the finals after the first leg, not really reflecting the run of play. Like I said, 3-0. I think Barcelona deserved to win, but I don't think it should have been that convincing, and Liverpool really did get what they deserve. Now, past the group stage in the Champions League, where the majority of Liverpool's losses for the season occurred, like the entire season, they obviously lost a game in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, and they lost 1 game in the Premier League, but they lost the 3 games in the group stage, all away games they lost, and it's been domination for them since then in the Premier League, in the Champions League, minus the 3-0 loss at the Nou Camp thanks to the special performance from Lionel Messi. They dominated in the Premier League, but they were let down by 1 draw too many and have been convincing in the knockout stages of the Champions League, even after being, like I said, 3-0 down to Barcelona in the semis. Now, Tottenham Hotspur, on the other hand, looks shaky in their final few weeks of the Premier League. They missed out on what seemed to be a locked-in 3rd place to Chelsea after a string of poor results. And in February, March, as I said before, it looked like they would push City and Liverpool all the way to the title, and they really dropped off, finishing in 4th place. And whilst they got the job done in the knockout stages with games that many people will never forget, the Ajax game, the Man City game, it was all crazy, they haven't looked anywhere near as convincing as Liverpool, needing the away goals rule in obviously the group stage and 2 of the knockout ties, the semi-final and the quarterfinals. So it's going to be a tough one for Tottenham, that's for sure. Harry Kane has confirmed himself as fit for the final. Whether or not he will be played or he will be on the bench, obviously Tottenham are going to do everything they can to get him on the pitch. And with him saying that he is fit to play, he will be playing in the final, most likely. And who will make way? Probably Lucas Moura, which is really unfortunate, but then it does make sense. You would argue on paper that Harry Kane is your best option up front. So despite Lucas Moura single-handedly getting them to the final, he should make way for Harry Kane. Maybe come on as an impact sub. You never know. Even if Harry Kane, if he can play the full 90 minutes, you don't know that. But anyway, let's have a look at the head-to-head record for Tottenham and Liverpool. Their last 10 meetings, and it's not looking good for the London side, I can tell you that. We have 5 wins for Liverpool, 1 win for Tottenham, and 4 draws. But it's very, very close in terms of goals scored. Liverpool have scored 16 goals, and Tottenham have scored 13 goals. So only 3 goals behind Liverpool, despite only winning 1 out of the 10. They score a similar amount of goals, and Liverpool tend to win by a small winning margin, with 2-1 to Liverpool being the most common outcome. So yeah, Liverpool seem better prepared for this, and they're of course going into the game as favourites. They have red hot form, and if Tottenham are going to win this game, in my opinion, they're going to need to make an impact in the first half, because I can't see them beating Liverpool in the second half with the way that Liverpool play. And I think both teams will be tentative in the first half because neither team want to be disadvantaged from early on. But I think Liverpool will be too strong for Tottenham in the end. So like I said, if Tottenham are going to make an impact in this game, they'll need to score 1, maybe 2 goals in the first half. I know I know Tottenham pulled back 3 goals against Ajax in the second half of the semi-finals, but Liverpool are far more experienced than Ajax. They are stronger at the back. Obviously, De Ligt is at the back and he's a good player, but as a unit, Liverpool's back line is very strong. And I see this game going similarly to last year's Champions League final, but Liverpool being on the winning side and Tottenham being on the losing end as opposed to Liverpool losing. So I'm going to go for the same scoreline as last year's Champions League final. Instead of it being 3-1 against Liverpool, I'm going to go 3-1 to Liverpool against Tottenham in the final. Perhaps a 1-1 at half-time because Tottenham do get that early first half goal, but Mo Salah, I can see him scoring in the first half, makes it 1-1, and then the likes of Mane and his speed can get a goal in the second half, like Mane did, I believe, in the second half of the Champions League final last year. I actually predicted that they would score on that corner before they did. It was quite exciting to watch. I think Liverpool are going to win this one. I hope Liverpool win this one. 3-1, of course, to Liverpool. So if my predictions are correct, Arsenal will win the Europa League, getting themselves to the Champions League. Liverpool will win the Champions League, and then everyone but Man United will be in the Champions League next year. Hopefully that does happen. But either way, let me know down in the comments what you think is going to happen. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe today to join the crew. Get the bell turned on so you don't miss any uploads in the future. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video very soon.